Hey, welcome to Food News and Chews, the cheese day. Hey, Jeremy.
Yes.
Guess what? They knew I was coming and they did all these little cheeses, but the one that they made for me was Sassy Red.
That's right. This is Boone Creek Creamery Sassy Redhead. We are at Boone Creek Creamery today with Ed Puterbaugh. He's going to show us actually how to make cheese, a small process. We've got lots of news-related items that kind of coincide with cheese. And then
history.
I've got a little recipe with one of his cheeses called Mamma Mia. We're going to pan fry it with a little smoked mozzarella cream or smoked tomato cream. Sorry about that. It's going to be fantastic.
We'll be back with Ed.
Today's shoppers are informed. When shopping for the family meal, today's shopper chooses Critchfield Meats for fresh, all-natural quality meats guaranteed. Make the right choice and visit our family before you feed yours. Critchfield Meats, the meat specialist, family owned and operated since 1969. That's a grade A choice, folks.
From concessions to festivals, bingo halls to daycare facilities, Seaworth Superstore is Kentucky's largest dealer for all your weekend kitchen or mobile kitchen supply needs. From popcorn to snow cone machines, we have the largest selection of new and used equipment with warranties to help keep your mobile food truck or weekend event going strong. That's Seaworth Superstore for Sales Road, Lexington. That's Seaworth Superstore, putting the Kentucky workforce back to work.
Why do chefs choose Lyons Farm beef?
It's consistent, it's delicious, it's got great tenderness, and it's really good for you. This nutritional element of making healthy animals for healthy eating is a big component about why their beef is so delicious. I feel so lucky to be a chef in Kentucky because the best way to express care for someone is to make them something to eat, and I get to do that every single day.
Lyons Farm beef, available at Critchfield Meats and lyonsfarm.com.
Hey, welcome to Food News and Chews. And Jeremy, I've died and gone to heaven. And what are you looking at me like that for?
No reason.
I am dedicating this show to the lowly cow and all the contributions that the cow has made. Tell us about this show today.
Guys, we're here at Boone Creek Creamery, and it's an amazing place. We've got Ed Puterbaugh here, and we also have Bessie with us today.
And Sassy Red.
And Sassy Red. He's got all these names for these cheeses, and you know there's some actual great history about cheese and some food topics we want to talk about. Yeah. Great news.
Like 6,000 years ago, they discovered it because they used stomachs of cows to carry things in, and suddenly there was curdling going on in those stomach cows.
It's like nature wanted us to find cheese.
That's the story. The nomad put milk in his stomach container, and he got where he was going, and probably was shocked to find that the milk had curdled.
Yeah.
Right? And like a lot of foods that were discovered, he was probably very hungry and decided to eat it anyway. And found out how wonderful it was and said, hey, let's do this again.
All the best recipes are accidents anyway.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's right. Okay, here's a statistic. Hard to talk through cow nose. In 1955, 13% of milk was made into cheese. In 1984, 31%. And now cheese is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's sort of like bacon, Jeremy.
Well, yeah. I mean, more and more as this artisanal trend comes back, I think that now that countries like the USA are really catching on, instead of just, going through American or cheddar cheese, we're kind of enlightening this artisanal movement where Europe has done it for, centuries. They eat cheese, it's a primary, staple, it's part of their cuisine every single day. And now we're catching on how great it is and how diverse it can be. And this guy knows how to make a lot of it. So.
One other interesting fact is today, cheese, there's huge markets for your business because rarely today in places outside of Europe, Middle East, and the Americas is cheese actually ubiquitous. So you could go to China tomorrow and make a fortune. Let's go.
Right.
But is that kind of what you think?
Well, it's a cultural thing. I mean, traditionally cheese was different varieties of cheese developed because local people had to do something with their extra milk. It's just that simple. They had the surplus of milk, and so they made cheese in the Alps that turned out to be Swiss. And so that became the cheese of that region. Well, that didn't happen in China and Japan simply because they're not a dairy culture.
Oh, that's true.
And so they didn't develop Chinese cheeses. I don't know of a Chinese cheese at all. But more importantly, they, as a society, they didn't develop a taste for cheese either. So.
Well, interesting. And then this is a good one. Stinky cheese is why women in France live longer.
Was that just from,
don't get fat, I guess.
Is that from good bacteria, you think?
Well, they think it's related to inflammation.
Oh, okay.
That the stinkier the cheese, and you're going to tell us in a minute why it's stinky, but the stinkier, like Roquefort or something like that, actually cuts back on inflammation, which is being found to cause a lot of disease.
So you think it's like the cheese part or the actual bacteria, the
What is
cultures
the
that are
deal?
anti-inflammatory?
I think stinky cheese keeps bad men away.
Kiss me! Kiss cow. You love cows. Kiss cow.
I do love cows, but you
Wait
know,
till later in the show.
cheese is all about bacteria and mold, and stinky cheeses have specific kind of molds that put an intense flavor into the cheese. Those bacteria and molds are what we refer to as probiotics, and so those are
I've heard about
news.
that lately.
yeah. So those are very good for you in your system.
Probiotics. Gosh, I'm just going to eat all of these cheeses and like be done with it. Okay. And then here's another big food news thing. There was a cheese fire in Norway. 27 metric tons of goat cheese.
27 metric tons.
Caramelized
Could you
in an
imagine
instant.
losing that kind of inventory? That's a real tragedy.
So
That's a lot of
anyway,
work out, too.
we're here and we're going to be going into, you're going to make a delicious dish that's
Yes.
going to be made from cheese, and we're going to find out how cheese is made from start to finish. But a couple of other things, just the big news that's out there right now, Jeremy, as you well know, is the drought.
Yeah.
Actually, they've been getting deluged with rain in the Midwest by, maybe middle of July. We don't know yet. It could be that cattle farmers are loving it because it's turning the grass green and the cows are eating. Cows are eating. Going to create more cheese for you. And cheese to be made for you, and so that's getting really interesting, this whole drought thing.
Well,
now we're getting too
certainly,
much.
I mean, now it's too much, but we're suffering from the past 2 years, so meat prices
and we're in the middle of a
anything from
business, of course, so we got to take a phone call here. This is about, I'm ordering 17,000 of these. I did,
Right.
behind his back. So anyway, that's the food news for the day, and then we're going to go right away into just talking a little bit more about the cutting of the curd. That's like blessing of the cheese or something like that, or cows.
And I can't wait to get my hands
And
on
we're
this
gonna
Mamma
go-
Mia,
we're gonna
this
go
herb
this-
encrusted Italian cheese.
And
I'm
then
going to pan fry it with a smoked
Yeah.
tomato cream sauce. It's going to be awesome. So.
And we'll be right back with Food News and Chews.
Hello, my name is Bob. Recently, I switched my business phone service to Glow Telecom. Now I'm saving over 50% on my monthly phone bills, over $2,000 a year. And I have a PBX phone system that would have cost me over $10,000. Unlimited calling to the US and Canada with no long distance charges. If you want to put money back in your wallet, call Glow Telecom today.
Call Glow Telecom at 888-428-0984. 888-428-0984. From concessions to festivals, bingo halls to daycare facilities, Seaworth Superstore is Kentucky's largest dealer for all your weekend kitchen or mobile kitchen supply needs. From popcorn to snow cone machines, we have the largest selection of new and used equipment with warranties to help keep your mobile food truck or weekend event going strong. That's Seaworth Superstore for Sales Road, Lexington. That's Seaworth Superstore, putting the Kentucky workforce back to work.
Worldly influenced, locally inspired. Azure Restaurant and Patio, contemporary fine dining in a relaxed atmosphere right here in Lexington. Modern award-winning dishes with a distinctive Kentucky twist from the mind of nationally recognized chef Jeremy Ashby. Voted best fine dining in Lexington. Azure is chef-created, chef-driven, and Kentucky proud since day one. Taste something unique at Azure Restaurant and Patio, Beaumont Center in Lexington. And see Chef Jeremy Ashby and Sylvia Lovely on the Food News and Chews, Sunday night at 11 on Fox 56.
Advertise your product or service on shows like this one. Contact Media 7 Broadcasting today. Call 859-317-4565 or email sales@m7bg.com. Reach potential new customers in the Louisville, Lexington, and other central Kentucky areas. Get your new ad produced for free by Media 7's audio and video professionals. Call 859-317-4565 today and let Media 7 create a marketing plan for you.
Welcome to Food News and Chews in our fashionable look here today.
We're looking pretty cheesy, actually.
And guess what? We have to do the cutting of the curds.
I know, we're actually on a timeline. We're here making
like the
cheese with
blessing of the
Ed
something.
Puterbaugh at Boone Creek Creamery, and
Good
this is an
morning.
amazing process. Good to see you.
Make cheese, not war. This is an amazing place with Boone Creek Creamery.
Well, thank you.
I
I think it's kind of unique.
know. And then you're at the farmer's market and stuff. But let's talk, because I really want to get some of this stuff in about you and how you got into this. It is a fascinating background. Tell us.
Well, my education was in clinical microbiology. I worked as a
Wow.
clinical microbiologist
You're
for
hot.
many, many years, diagnosing diseases. I popped my Achilles tendon and couldn't work, so it was time for a career change. I was the very first person in Kentucky to have desktop publishing. I learned to do that. My first customer was Charter Ridge Hospital. My second customer was Long John Silver's. So it was time for a career change. So I've been doing that for 30 years.
And
I got into the cheese making after reading a book by Barbara Kingsolver called Animal
Yeah.
Vegetable
Yeah,
Miracle.
yeah.
They spend an entire year eating nothing but local food,
Yeah.
which is wonderful but very difficult.
Very hard.
And so they had to put away a lot of food for the wintertime, and they got into some really basic cheese making, and it just awakened the old microbiologist in me. And so I got into it as a hobby, fell in love with it, immediately understood all the technical stuff.
Oh, sure. That's
and
key in for him as a
Yeah.
microbiologist.
and so for me, the beauty of making cheese is I get to satisfy my technical side, but at the same time I get to be creative, and that is so much fun.
You sassy guy.
You sassy
You have
redhead.
some sassy stuff sitting here, don't you?
I do, right here.
So in terms of cheese making, what is the actual process? What's going on inside of cheese when you're actually
Right.
producing it?
In the pot behind us, we have 38 gallons of JD Country milk. That's milk from a Mennonite farm
Here in Kentucky.
here in Kentucky,
Yep.
outside of Bowling Green. The milk is low temperature pasteurized, and it's not homogenized, so it's really good for making milk. This milk has been heated up to 88 degrees. I've added the appropriate bacteria to give it the flavor profile that I want in this cheese, and then I added an enzyme called rennet.
So does each cheese have a
Right.
different set of bacteria that you've developed to develop different flavors or different properties?
Yes and no. I tell people that making cheese is like cooking an egg. You start off with a raw product, but look at all the things that you can
Varieties.
do. You know, over easy, sunny side up, scrambled,
Yeah, and then-
and look at the difference between a hard-boiled egg and a soft-boiled egg. What's the difference?
Yeah, well, one's hard,
Just
one's
temperature,
hard.
right? Yeah, time and temperature.
Time, yeah.
If you want it harder, you cook. Cheese is exactly the same way.
Yes.
So we don't really put things in it to make it a Gouda. We just encourage it to become a
Yeah.
Gouda. And that is with, certainly some of that is with the bacteria, but it's also about how you handle the cheese during the making and how you age it.
How many varieties do you have here in this operation?
Oh, I do 39 different kinds.
39 different kinds. And you've been in business how long?
I've been making cheese about 5 years.
Yeah, and it's in the back of your, tell us about it. Like if somebody wants to come get cheese, I'm like addicted.
Well, we're here off Palumbo Drive in Lexington, and I saw that you actually do cheese making classes here too.
I do classes. I can't do them during the summertime because I'm so involved with the farmers markets. But October and throughout the winter, we do monthly cheese making classes.
How approachable is it for somebody at home to get kind of quick, simple results? They come here, they learn a few things, they can go home and do it? No
I'll
problem?
give you your first cheese on camera.
All right.
Okay, take 2 gallons of milk,
Yep.
heat it up to 190 degrees. That's very important
Okay.
because you're denaturing the proteins. You're loosening up the proteins so that they can turn into something else. Add a half a cup of vinegar.
So you're making ricotta, right?
curdles
That's
it.
like a
Yeah,
ricotta
like
cheese.
curds.
Well, it is.
Or fresh-
well,
Yeah.
actually, you just made 3 different kinds of cheeses, believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
You've made a whole milk ricotta.
Yeah.
And so the cheese will float to the top. You pull it off and drain it in a colander, and you're done. Ricotta, you keep it nice and fluffy.
Okay, we're ready. We're ready. It's the cutting of the curds.
Ricotta, you keep it nice and fluffy. If you put that in cheesecloth and let it drain into a ball, that is now queso blanco. That is the most popular Spanish-American cheese that there is.
Yeah,
Women
let's
throughout South America make
Crumble that over everything.
Oh,
Every
and
day.
that's what you go out to a Mexican restaurant.
Now, if we take that same cheese, put it in the press, we're going to get even more moisture out of it. We're going to make the texture more dense, Now you have made queso fresco.
Sure.
3 cheeses.
Interesting.
And now you know how to do this.
All right. Now you're going to show us the cutting of the curds.
So now,
So what's going on inside this pot? You said you've heated it at 88 degrees.
Say one thing first,
bacteria?
though. Say one thing first, though, about urban. There are 4 urban.
there are only
cheese-
4
this is
urban
an amazing
cheesemakers.
statistic.
There's only 4 urban cheesemakers in the whole country. You're standing in one of them.
Is that amazing?
There we go.
You go to Wisconsin, you can visit 100 cheesemakers, but they're all out in the country. I focus on the cheese making and not raising cows.
Sure.
My Mennonites do a significantly better job than I could ever do with their cows.
Yeah.
And I make better cheese than they do.
I love that. And you make better cheese than I would, so that's
Let's
what
see
I
what's
do.
in here.
Anyway, let's
All
see
right.
what's going on.
So this is 38 gallons of milk that has been heated to 88 degrees. We added the rennet.
So the rennet is actually, you use a vegetable-based rennet. Typically, it does come
Yeah.
from the stomach of a cow, but
Yeah,
there's
tell us
also
about
other
that.
ones.
Yeah, my rennet is classified as vegan rennet. My rennet is actually produced by bacteria, natural bacteria as a byproduct.
And this is the stuff that curds the milk and makes the
Curdles the
cheese
milk,
float, or the
right.
curds, yeah.
Okay. This
Magic.
is a reverent moment.
Looks like ice cream.
So this is
does,
the drum
custard.
roll. This is what some of the books will talk about as being a clean break.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you can see how it
It's like
separates.
Jell-O.
This is like checking a cake to be sure that it's done, or some sort of bakery product. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rim the pot here,
Yeah.
coming your way.
That looks fun. It's like a huge cheesecake.
It's like a huge cheesecake, and you could make cheesecake out of this.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then what do you do with this when you get it beyond the cutting?
Okay, so I rimmed it simply because I know that cheese that sticks to the top, but you can see how thick
Wow.
that is. And so this is called a cheese harp, and so I'm going to coming your way.
Look at this.
Mm-hmm. And so I am.
Can you store cheese for a long time, like freeze it or anything like that?
You can freeze cheeses. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
The trick is when you thaw out a frozen cheese, you need to do it in the refrigerator very slowly. So
Very
it may take a
slow.
couple of
And
days.
it may lose some of its flavor, huh?
And I won't lose flavor, but the texture will
The
change.
texture.
Yeah, I guess it would break down the ice
Yeah.
crystals, just like a vegetable too. I mean, it seems like freezing damage it in some ways.
Yeah. But then, when you don't eat a lot of stuff at one time, it's an issue. Look how pretty that's getting, kind of mottled. And then what? After it gets to get that consistency.
Okay. And then I'm going to stir it to get some of the bigger pieces off the bottom.
That's a big stirrer.
So did the whole actual tin curd all the way down, or is it actually mostly float to the top?
Oh no, it's all the way. The whole pot
Wow,
is
that's a- so that's a
the
thick
whole pot
bottom
is like
cheese.
like Jell-O,
I see.
That is so pretty.
cream Jell-O.
So all cheese starts with this base?
All cheese starts with this base. From this point on, everything is different for every cheese.
All the flavorings you add, or the timing, as you said.
Well, the timing. So, for example, I'm doing
About to finish up here.
I'm doing a minimal kind of curd cut.
Okay.
But at this point, one of the rules is that the smaller I make these curds, the drier the cheese is going to be.
The smaller you, okay.
So for example, if we were making Parmesan right now, I would need to take these curds to the size of a rice grain. I want to retain as little moisture
Oh, because it's a dry cheese, yeah.
as possible. And
There
so
you
that's
go.
what makes one of the things that makes Parmesan harder.
So
and
at this point, the curds are taken out and they're pressed, or they're dried, or they're aged,
And then you go.
about 4 hours from now.
All right. Well, we'll be right back. We're going to actually do some work and just finish this up real quick for us.
You
We'll move
can
on.
see the liquid here.
Yep.
That's the whey that is already coming out of the curds.
All
And
right.
so our process will be cooking the curds a certain way to get a certain amount of that whey out of there. And every
Fascinating.
cheese has different moisture contents. So.
hopefully he's going to let us try some.
Yeah.
too.
Okay, well, we're not going away. We're going to actually move into doing some, and we'll answer some more of these questions, like how long does it take to do all of this. So we'll be right back with Food News in 2.
Now, the award-winning dishes enjoyed at Azure Restaurant and Patio can be featured at your next event when you order from Azure Catering. Our services include menu planning with our amazing food, event site location, rental equipment, linens, event staffing, and seeing to every last detail of your wedding, special event, or corporate event. Visit AzureCateringKY.com or call 859-327-7125 to start customizing your menu today.
Why do chefs choose Lyons Farm beef?
When I get things in the kitchen, I can tell like right off the bat. After I get done searing it or put it on the grill or roasting it or baking it or frying it or whatever I'm going to do, the second I cut into that thing, whether it's the resistance on the fork or just the way it kind of slides across the knife, it's got to be right on from the get-go. And it seems like this beef does that every single time.
Lyons Farm beef, available at Critchfield Meats and LyonsFarm.com.
Advertise your product or service on shows like this one. Contact Media 7 Broadcasting today. Call 859-317-4565 or email sales@m7bg.com. Reach potential new customers in the Louisville, Lexington, and other Central Kentucky areas. Get your new ad produced for free by Media 7's audio and video professionals. Call 859-317-4565 today and let Media 7 create a marketing plan for you.
Hello, my name is Bob. Recently, I switched my business phone service to Glow Telecom. Now I'm saving over 50% on my monthly phone bills, over $2,000 a year. And I have a PBX phone system that would have cost me over $10,000. Unlimited calling to the US and Canada with no long distance charges. If you want to put money back in your wallet, call Glow Telecom today.
Call Glow Telecom at 888-428-0984. 888-428-0984.
Welcome to Food News and Chews. Jeremy, I'm over here grazing.
We got a lot of varieties. Well, several of your 39 varieties of cheese, right?
Yes.
Look at this. We got Kentucky
I got
Derby,
carried away.
Rhapsody, smoked Gouda.
We just
Take
got to
it
try
away,
all
guys.
these, and every single one has, one, they're delicious, but two, just unique properties too. That's Sylvia's here, the Sassy Redhead. This one right here, which is what got a lot of pepper, and what have you dusted the top
Hot.
with?
The top is dusted with a smoked paprika, so as it gives it a nice look, but as the cheese ages, it actually pulls some of that flavor into the cheese as part of the aging process.
I love that. And we're sitting here too with the milk. This is the special milk that you use, the Mennonite milk. Because of the way it's done, it's outside of Bowling Green. You get
Yeah, they're outside of Bowling Green. It's low temperature pasteurized, not homogenized, so it's wonderful, wonderful milk. It's not like store-bought milk at all.
Well, you've got a lot of neat flavors infused into it. I picked out one that you call Mamma Mia, and it's more like it's like a Tuscan one, right? Or is
It's an Italian cheese.
Okay. And it's got some Italian flavors, and it looks like it's got an herb crust on the outside, if you can see. But what I wanted to do is, I'm going to take this, and since it melts so well, do a little pan fry. And I've got a smoked plum tomato sauce underneath it. So it's kind of like, a fancy version of your fried mozzarella, but, other than using a mozzarella, one of his fabulous artisanal cheese is the way to go. The recipe should be very, very simple. I usually soak the cheese in a little bit of oil, which, he's probably like, oh no, you're adding to my, cheese, but no, it actually helps to let this flour stick. If you take your cheese and soak it in oil for a little while, if you want to add extra herbs, that's fine. Dip it in the flour, then a little bit in egg wash, which is just a little bit of egg and milk, and then into some Italian breadcrumbs. You've got a nice crust on there.
Oh man,
then we can just drop it in a little bit of oil and do a small little pan fry. And the melting qualities of this cheese, plus he's already got so many neat flavors in there, should be spectacular with this little setup. I've got some fresh kale from Kentucky as well.
Talk about local. That's an important thing to you, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredibly important. Windleberry is a friend of mine.
Oh, neat.
And I definitely am tuned into the buy local movement. People need to know where their food is coming from. They need to know what's in their food.
And we need to create a culture in Kentucky that recognizes that, because we have such an opportunity here.
We do.
Because why let Vermont run away with the show, right? I mean, we have small state, kind of small stuff, and then transitioning from tobacco, we could go into local farm. Oh, does that look good?
Isn't that nice and simple?
Wow.
And you don't want to really melt the cheese too much. Don't go too much. He's got such a great texture on these. You want a little bit of a cold center to where it has a little bite to it, right? So anyway, I'll post the recipe on foodnewsandchews.com. But
what else are you doing?
nice little smoked plum tomato sauce.
Oh, he's going to make the presentation. Hey, while he talk about that big vat, the cutting of the curd, that's going to be cheddar, you said.
It's a cheddar base. The Sassy Red head is a cheddar with whole peppercorns and red pepper flakes, and then we hand rub the top with red paprika. And that will happen later this afternoon. Now, we have cut the curds. Right now, we're letting those curds meld for about an hour to develop some acidity.
Yeah. And those bacteria, you said, are just like gobbling up something.
I'm busy at work.
Yeah, the bacteria are eating up all the lactose. So one of the things people don't understand is that artisan aged cheese has no lactose. No lactose. No lactose, no carbohydrates.
That's because the bacteria eats it all, right?
That's because the bacteria eat it all. So I get people all the time who are lactose intolerant think
Right.
that they can't eat cheese. That's not true. They need to be
that's interesting.
selective about their cheeses and not eat junk from the grocery store.
Gotcha.
Local food.
Yeah.
And speaking of local, this is some nice locally raised kale, from one of my farmers. Then add a little olive oil to it, a little salt, pepper, a touch of balsamic if you can get a flavored balsamic. From a local guy, that's great. Especially Stuardo's got some really nice ones.
Got some nice ones.
So we dress that with salt and pepper, just raw kale,
Oh, that looks
chiffonade,
good.
and put right on top of the cheese.
What
It's
was in
almost
that
like a little
sauce,
salad.
Jeremy? Tell us about that sauce that you just...
Plum tomatoes, which I char on the grill, and kind of get that really rustic, smoky flavor. Then it's
Good
just like
stuff.
making a basic marinara like you would at home. You
Yeah.
start with those smoked charred tomatoes,
perfect.
and then finish with just a touch of cream. And we got pan-fried cheese, fresh kale, a little balsamic, and then this awesome Mamma Mia cheese, which I highly recommend going and getting.
I can't wait to get into
Because
that.
I'm ready to try that too.
We need a bite, yeah. Tell us real quickly
You
again
have, you have made my cheese look spectacular.
Well, it already is spectacular. All we did was, everything is great fried,
new
but it's
home
already
food.
good. Right?
Yeah,
Tell us how they can find you, how people can find you.
I'm right here.
Yeah, off Palumbo,
We're on Palumbo.
Boone Creek Creamery.
Boone
Do you
Creek
have a website?
Creamery. We have a website. It's boonecreekcreamery.com.
I'm gonna be best friend. I'm gonna be out there all the time. I love it.
Worldly influenced, locally inspired. Azure Restaurant and Patio, contemporary fine dining in a relaxed atmosphere right here in Lexington. Modern award-winning dishes with a distinctive Kentucky twist from the mind of nationally recognized chef Jeremy Ashby. Voted best fine dining in Lexington. Azure is chef-created, chef-driven, and Kentucky proud since day one. Taste something unique at Azure Restaurant and Patio, Beaumont Center in Lexington. And see Chef Jeremy Ashby and Sylvia Lovely on the Food News and Chews, Sunday night at 11 on Fox 56.